Hello everyone, welcome back to Goose Minds. Today we're going to be talking about empathy. Like usual, before we start delving into the specifics, we'll learn about what empathy is exactly. Empathy is the ability to recognize, understand, and share the same thoughts and feelings of another figure's experience of a situation by imagining oneself in their place. Sometimes the concept of empathy and sympathy are used interchangeably, but they are not the same concept. Sympathy is understanding the situation from your own perspective, while empathy involves putting yourself in the other person's shoes and understanding why they are feeling those certain emotions. Common sympathetic phrases include poor you and start with at least. Sympathy can be feeling sorry for someone's situation and wanting his or her situation to become better, but it does not involve sharing the emotions of other individual. Empathy, on the other hand, does involve sharing the emotions of others. Empathy helps others feel less alone and validates their emotions. For a quick summary, empathy typically involves 3 parts. The 3 parts are 1. Feeling the same emotions as the other person. 2. Personal distress of the situation. 3. Feeling compassion for the other person. So now you're probably wondering what could be signs of empathy. Some signs that you tend to be an empathetic person include that you're good at listening to others, people often tell you about their problems, you can easily pick up on others' feelings, you often think about how other people feel, other people come to you for advice, you feel overwhelmed by tragic events, you try to help others who are suffering, and you care deeply about other people. Obviously, this is not an all-encompassing list, but those are some signs that show that you are an empathetic person. We've already now talked about some of the details of empathy, but did you know that there are 3 different types of empathy? These are cognitive empathy, affective empathy, and somatic empathy. Cognitive empathy describes how well an individual perceives and understands the emotions of another. Cognitive empathy involves understanding how someone might respond to a certain situation. This is a skill that is sometimes referred to as empathetic accuracy. An example of cognitive empathy would be recognizing that your friend is disappointed after not getting a job they were interviewed for. Affective empathy is the ability to understand another person's emotions and respond to those appropriately. Affective empathy is occasionally referred to as emotional empathy. Here's a display of the concept. If someone's grandfather has recently passed away, a person using emotional empathy would say something like, "I'm sorry to hear about your grandfather. I know you miss him. I will be here for you." In the process, the empathetic person may even become tearful or sad themselves. Somatic empathy is the physical reaction in response to what someone else is experiencing. An example of somatic empathy would be blushing or feeling slightly nauseous when someone else embarrasses themselves. What exactly leads to the development of empathy? Like many other psychology concepts, the development of empathy is shaped by both genetics and the environment. Parents pass down genes that contribute to a child's overall personality, and these could include an inclination towards sympathy, empathy, and compassion. That's the genetics component. Who the person grows up and spends time around also affects his or her development of empathy. From a young age, children learn empathy through watching how their parents and people around them treat others. The actions that they observe become instilled in them from a young age. There have also been studies that show that children who grow up in a safe, secure, and loving environment are more sensitive to others' emotions. Empathy is also a skill, so it increases with experience and practice. In continuation with the previous topic, how do we empathize? Many believe that empathy has its roots in mirror neurons. There is a belief that we understand others by not thinking, but feeling, because mirror neurons seem to let us simulate other people's actions and the thoughts behind those actions. Worded differently, mirror neurons appear to increase our ability to make sense of other people's intentions and actions. They also help us interpret facial expressions and, eventually, help us empathize. Also, remember how we talked about the different types of empathy earlier? The different types of empathy are also believed to have primary connections with different parts of the brain. For example, affective empathy is grounded in the limbic region, which regulates emotions. Cognitive empathy, however, is thought to be activated by the medial prefrontal cortex. Overall, though, there is still much more research to be done regarding the science behind empathizing. So why is empathy important? In recent years, studies have shown that people with higher levels of empathy are more likely to function well in society. Empathy is vital in building successful interpersonal relationships. It helps us cooperate with others, build friendships, and establish rapport. Being able to connect with others is not only important in personal relationships such as friendships or romantic relationships, but also for business and more professional connections. Empathy also promotes more helping behaviors in an individual and helps that individual learn to regulate, please note that this does not mean suppress, their emotions even when they are feeling very stressed. Since empathy is an important skill to develop, how can we actively cultivate it? Some common ways include spending time with individuals who are different than you, reading novels or stories, and asking questions. By becoming more involved and increasing your awareness of those who are different than you, it will become easier for you to adopt the points of views of others, which is an essential element in empathizing. Reading novels or works of fiction can also help you better understand others in the world, because while you're engaging with a story, you're practicing the same cognitive abilities you would use during social cognition. Remember, empathy is a skill, and developing a skill takes practice. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for this brief overview of empathy, and I'll see you next time.